I went home and baked until like 2, 3 in the morning and then got up and went to work. And it got to a point where I was like, something's got to give. Either I take my business full time or I have to really scale back. So I was really pushed to that point to have to make a decision on what to do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast, a podcast where we interview entrepreneurs and their stories. I'm your host, Therese.
And I'm Shelby.
And today we have Vicki from Vicki's Cookies. I was about to say like Vicki Cookies instead of Vicki because I just call it Vicki
it's
Cookies.
the same.
Yeah, they're the
People
same.
call my husband Mr. Cookies. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So can you start off, Vicki, by telling us how you got started with your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. I think I've always been a little bit of an entrepreneur. I've always been a workaholic for sure. But baking was my hobby growing up. And I just kept it as a hobby while working full time until I started my business in 2017.
2017. Okay, so 6 years deep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you said you've been doing cookies for 15 years.
Yeah.
So when did it change to a business from just your hobby?
Yeah. So I decorated my first cookie 15 years ago, and I was living in New York at the time. I've been in Wisconsin just for 12 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Where's your accent?
I have a Wisconsin accent now. It came on me immediately when I moved here. Don't make me say anything with O's in it.
You betcha.
But so I was in New York and I mostly did it as a hobby. And then I had groups of friends that were just encouraging me, you have to sell this, you have to do more with it. So I didn't officially become a business. I think a lot of bakers start that way where they're just selling to family and friends. So I did that while I was in New York, and I did build up a little bit of business. And then when I moved to Wisconsin, it was actually illegal at the time to bake out of your home in Wisconsin until 2017.
The cottage law was not in effect until 2017.
Yep.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still made cookies for family and friends here, but I couldn't actually establish my business and sell to strangers until 2017.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because I didn't start till after, so I never had to worry. Like, I didn't think about that, you know?
Yeah, the cottage law.
Okay, I'm curious. So you were in New York. Did you grow up in New York?
Yes. I grew up in Syracuse, so central New York, not New York City. So that's probably also why you don't hear an accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grow up in New York. Yep. You go to school for
psychology. I went to college. I have a psychology degree. I was working for a convenience store chain whose corporate office was in my hometown. I got really lucky with my first job at 16. I was working in an office environment. Mm-hmm. So I got exposed to really every part of business. I worked in the accounting department. I worked in HR. I did a lot of different things. I went to school, got a psychology degree, and I wasn't really sure what my next step was going to be because I was kind of out of money to go to graduate school. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to specialize in. And about a month before I graduated, the president of the company I was working for called me up and said, our HR person decided to leave. What do you think? And I was like, it sounds better than any plan that I have for myself right now. So, I got really lucky getting into the workforce that way. And I got a lot of different experience. I think that helps me as an entrepreneur.
Wow. Okay, wait, I have to ask. Yeah. The convenience store chain, was it Walgreens?
It was not. That's a drugstore.
Was it Wawa?
No, it was a local one. It was actually called Nice and Easy Grocery Shops.
Oh.
So, yeah, I worked for them for, I think, like 17 years. I was there a long time. Yeah.
Are they still around?
They got bought by, I think, Circle K.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just going to say, I worked at Walgreens starting at 16. Loved it. Absolutely. Nice. I wanted to reminisce for a sec, but never
I'm
mind.
sorry, I can't do that with you.
So anyways, you're working in HR there. You're there for a total of 17 years. So then what?
Then I moved on to a couple other HR jobs in the Syracuse area. And then it was 2010. I got laid off from my job. I was working for a community college at that point. And I don't know if you remember the economy in 2010, but it was terrible. So I got laid off from my job. I was going through a divorce and I had always wanted to move to Wisconsin. So
why?
I know. It seems like a weird thing,
reason.
Right? So my brother had moved here with his family. So my niece and my nephew were here. And I came to visit and I just fell in love with it. I was like, everyone here is so nice. Like, this is just such a great place. And I remember that year I had visited And I drove home. I went to the grocery store and everyone in the grocery store was miserable. And I was like, I got to get out of here. Wisconsin is calling me. Like, I have to be there. So,
that's so interesting.
I got divorced. I got laid off. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect time to go. So my brother was nice enough to let me live with him when I moved here. And that was December of 2011.
Was that in Madison?
That was in Madison,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so like I'm just assuming here, you move here, you get a new job, or is there some time in between where you started like really dabbling into cookie stuff?
Yeah. So I did get a new job, but it took me a while when I moved here to get a new job. I was looking for jobs in HR, and luckily I was collecting unemployment from New York State because I got laid off. So it gave me a cushion to like be able to move here and get settled. And I started interviewing for HR jobs. And the more that I interviewed, the more I was like, I don't like this. I really hate HR. I don't want to go back to doing this. So I actually got hooked up with a startup company. I know, Shelby, you worked for a startup company too, where there were 4 employees. So I was the 5th employee going into that startup company. So I think that really helped me grow my sense of being an entrepreneur too. And this whole time I was making cookies on the side for family and friends too.
What was the startup? What did they do?
It was called Shelby, and it was a system for patients who are getting ready for surgeries. So it specialized in hip and knee replacement surgeries. So when they got scheduled for surgery, there's a whole bunch of things that they needed to do in like the 4 or 5 weeks leading up to surgery. So we would create the system to guide them through week by week, everything that they needed to do. So I pretty much did everything, except I wasn't a programmer, obviously, but they brought me in because I had an HR background, so I could help the business in every area as we grew. But I mostly did the implementations with the hospital teams and did like the customer success as well.
So one of the things that I think is interesting is you worked for a startup and it got you excited about like entrepreneurship.
Definitely.
I know like I worked for a couple of startups not a couple, just one. But it was very brief, like a year and a half. And I was like, I don't know if this is my life, my lifestyle. I mean, here I am now, but I don't know if I attribute it to wanting to start a business type of thing. So, but you do attribute that.
I think so. I think it definitely helped. I worked for them for 7 years and it was just so exciting. Like we celebrated every sale. Everything we did was a big deal and we celebrated everything. And that's infectious. And so I think that definitely carried over into starting my business too.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if I loved that it was always so exciting and whatever, but I came from a corporate job, like literally in a cubicle, dreaded every single day. Everyone was like, oh, did you run this number? Everyone talks like that. Like literally, it was like everyone here hates their life.
Like the sloth from Zootopia.
And so I went from that to like the startup and I was like, oh, like the bosses just go in and out. They run around. There's people scootering. There's like, I was like, this is cool. Like, why did I sit in a cubicle? I cried every day. I went to the bathroom every day and cried. Like, that's how much I hated it. So I think that was kind of the same for me. I was like, I am never, ever going to work in an office.
Yes.
Nope.
Even before I decided to take my cookie business full time, I was like, I can't go work for a big corporation ever again because I love that energy of the startup.
So it was while you were at Shelby that you really started to pick up cooking.
Yes.
I mean, if my timeline's right, you started there in 2012, right?
Yep.
And so if you were there for 7 years, 2019, but things didn't really start picking up for your business until the panini happened in 2020.
Yeah.
So like, I'm really interested in like that transition period of when you started getting into it, making it more of a business.
And when I decided to leave my job.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did my first sale in October of 2017. Like I didn't wait. As soon as it became legal to be a home baker, I'm like, all right, here's Halloween cookies. Let's go. And I started doing markets. At that point, there weren't really any bakeries or food items at a lot of these markets. So I did the Madison Makers Market that February. That was my very first market, and I was the first baker to ever do that. I went home with a ton of cookies because people didn't know who I was, and I way overbaked. I didn't know what to expect. But word of mouth started to grow. I didn't even have an Instagram at that point. Just had my little Facebook page. Yeah. One of my coworkers actually set up an Instagram account for me and was like, you need to use this because I didn't want to learn something new. I was like, no, I'm fine. But so it started that way. It started on Facebook. It started gradually growing. And by 2018, it was like I was working all the time. I worked for the startup, went home, baked, you know, this Shelby. I went home and
Speaking
baked
to the
until
choir.
like 2, 3 in the morning and then got up and went to work. And it got to a point where I was like, something's got to give. Either I take my business full time or I have to really scale back. So I was really pushed to that point to have to make a decision on what to do.
Well, my question is like, how long did it take for you to be working 24/7 before you're like, I need to do something about this?
I did it way longer than I should have.
Like months,
so
years?
I would say months. And my husband is fantastic. And the only thing I think we've disagreed on in our marriage is the timeline for me leaving my full-time job. Because we're both pretty financially conservative. I'm not a big risk taker, which is hard when you want to be an entrepreneur. So our desired timelines were different. I wanted to do it obviously right away because I was tired. You know, I was working all the time, but we had just built a new house and we wanted to do all these things. So he was like, one more year, give it one more year. And I remember just sobbing in the car, like, I can't keep this up for another year. So we ended up kind of splitting the difference. There were some, I want to be nice about this, but there were some managerial changes at Welby that made it less fun to work there. So I was like, all right, this is the time and this is the push.
Yeah, there was a
exactly.
managerial change at mine. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Whew,
Yeah.
that is-
So, but for me, because I am kind of risk adverse, I needed to prove to myself that I could support myself with my business, right? So even though I was really tired, I needed to reach a certain level of business. And I didn't define it as a number, although I was like, I just have to be able to make my car payment, right? On my own. That's what I need to do. But I needed to build my business up to a certain level before I was comfortable stepping away.
So what timeline was it that you ended up leaving?
I left in November of 2019.
Ooh.
Yeah, talk about timing, right?
So like one of the biggest questions I feel like people wonder at this point when they have a business and they also have a full-time job is like, when can you make that decision? Like was it really truthfully like, okay, I'm making enough money to make my car payment? Or like it was a mix of just the manager thing? It was just like a perfect storm?
I think it was a perfect storm. And I think that decision, there's no right answer for anybody, right? It depends on your comfort level. I was lucky to have health insurance through my husband, so I didn't have to worry about that. I know that's a thing that holds a lot of people back. But for me, I needed to see a pattern of growth too, right? I needed to know I could make my car payment. And then I needed to see that the opportunity to continue to grow my business was there before I was comfortable. If it weren't for the management change, I don't know that I would have done it yet. I just, like, that's the one regret that I have is not making the decision to jump all in sooner.
Really?
Yeah. I wish I'd done it sooner, but I'm too
I feel
cautious.
like a lot of people say that too. Like I don't know if I think I could have done it sooner for sure. Like
Yeah.
I could have.
Oh my God, yeah. For a second I was processing what you're saying. I'm like, yeah.
Anyways, okay.
Man.
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
So for me, when the panini happened, my business like skyrocketed.
Mhm.
And I at first was like, oh no. Like this ain't gonna be good for
Yeah.
me. Like
Yeah.
I still was working at my other job, but I had wanted to leave. So I was like, oh no, like this is not good. It blew up.
Mhm.
So I don't know. What do you think that is? Because yours blew up as
Yeah,
well.
I
So
had the same experience.
I don't know.
My
Like,
husband and I were on vacation in Texas when the panini started. Like everything started being locked down. And I remember sitting in the hotel room crying because I had a cookie class scheduled and I'm refunding thousands of dollars, right? I just quit my job like 6 months before and I'm
Oh,
refunding
no.
thousands of dollars. I
Wow.
was so worried. But I think it was my success during that time was people wanted something they could get safely and give to people safely. So when I discovered curbside pickup, garage pickup, it changed everything. And so they were small treats that people could pick up and porch drop to their loved ones or have for a small family celebration. I did a lot of decorating kits. That was big for me at the beginning because people wanted activities. So yeah, I think people were just looking for an easy way to get something safe and celebrate safely.
And what do you think about just like people being on their phones more and being on Instagram? Do you feel like that was also
Yeah,
a
I
big
think
piece
so.
of it?
I think so. It's when my Instagram started growing too, but I was intentional about that. I listened to a coach who was like, "You got to put your face on Instagram
Oh, yes,
so
you
people
do.
get to know you." And I'm like, "I don't want to do it."
You're so
But
good
it
at
was
that.
like a challenge to do it, But then the more you do it, the more comfortable you are. And at the end of the day, people want to buy things from people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And they can't get to know, like, and trust you if you're not putting yourself out there and being the face of your business.
Drop the mic. That's it.
Boom.
Yeah, no.
That's it. That's the point. Yeah, I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. Someone told me that early on, like a mentor of mine, and she was like, everyone wants to look at you. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? What do you mean? They want to hear from you. And I did believe her. I was like, are you serious? And so then I was like, maybe she's right. Like, I don't know. And
But
that
when you
changed
think
it
about
for
how
me
you
too.
interact with other businesses, don't you feel the same way? Like, I want to buy boards from Therese because I like her and I like her product, and I want to buy from you because I like you and I like your product.
Well,
So
and like sales for me is by far my favorite part. And I remember someone saying like, they don't buy your product unless they buy you first.
right.
So like, I also noticed my Instagram, I didn't put my face on for years. I had the account for a while. Then I took a class and they're like, put your face on, it will make things skyrocket. Now I'm at the point though where I'm like, can my business still grow without my face constantly?
Yeah.
I'm trying that out.
Yeah. You got to pop in now and then, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I always get excited when I see my friends on, like I see the little bubble and I'm like, are they talking today?
Yeah.
Or is it like an ad? Like you just don't know. You're always on your edge of your seat.
Yeah.
So with using Instagram, a piece of it is obviously selling your product and your services. How much of it do you feel like is a piece of selling your entrepreneurial story and sharing like, oh my gosh, look at these thousands of boxes we're putting together today? Or
I think that's a lot of it. I think that helps me more in the cookie community than with my customers, though. Like, the cookie community blows me away. Like, I've had so many people that I meet in person for the first time, and they are like, you're such an inspiration. You helped me learn to do this. And I just cry. But you don't think about that. It's part of just like, I have to show people what I'm doing, right? I need to put some content out there. I hate using that phrase, but I got to put stuff out there. So I show everything that I'm doing and building, and I think it helps to show other people that path. I think it's interesting to my customers. They tell me it's interesting, but I think it's more interesting to the cookie community too.
watching you organize your cookie cutters
It's crazy.
was nuts.
I'm working on Halloween now, so I had like 5 buckets of Halloween cutters, and my husband was laughing at me when I was going through them, and I found 2. I'm like, I'm never going to use these. I'm going to throw these 2 away. He's like, oh, those 2, huh? Out of these thousands of Halloween cutters. So I felt like I made progress, but
That's
Yeah,
good. You have
it's
like a whole
lot.
storage room.
a lot. My whole basement is just filled with stuff.
Yeah.
Cookie cutters and packaging and freezers.
I mean, truthfully, like looking at your setup from what I've just seen on video
Yeah.
is like in your kitchen, which is, didn't you like design the kitchen in a
Yeah,
way?
you built your house recently, right?
Yeah,
Last
so
couple of years.
When we built our house, my business was part-time. I'd do things differently if I knew how it would grow. But, I made some accommodations for it. I have a giant pantry that I can wheel my baker's rack into. Like, it's set up pretty well that way. I have double ovens that I use just for cookies. But I would have a separate room now where I could close the door. That would be
Okay.
my dream, and just get away from work.
Wow. Yeah. I remember you said you had like an open concept so you
Yeah.
could watch TV or like interact with
Mhm.
your husband
Yeah.
while you're there. But like, I'm really impressed because you have so much commercial equipment in your home,
I do.
which
The
is
big mixer.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's kind of wild that you've created your space where it's not a commercial kitchen, but it functions like one to some degree, including like your storage basement. And it makes me curious. Do you think, not from like a legal standpoint, but from a point of growth, would you ever go into a commercial kitchen or get your own space?
So I've thought about this so much. I can't figure out how to make money paying to lease a space. Sugar cookies are so time consuming. Like, it's normal for me to spend 10 or 15 minutes decorating a cookie. And that doesn't include like shopping for ingredients, baking, rolling it out, all that stuff. So I don't think the profit margin is there in just decorated sugar cookies to be able to afford the overhead of a space. But it would be really nice to have help. Because it's weird to invite people into your house. And I don't even know if I could have someone on payroll working out of my house. My family comes and helps me out during busy times. So that would be the benefit. I'd love to get more hands in the kitchen, but not necessarily my personal kitchen.
Yeah, it's so tricky.
Yeah. So if I
Yeah.
wanted to be in a kitchen, I'd have to expand beyond just sugar cookies. I'd have to have something that I could crank out a lot faster. And
Well, you're doing drop cookies.
I'm
Yeah.
doing drop
and
cookies. That's
bomb,
why. Yeah.
And you're doing, all your classes. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh my gosh. And those,
Classes.
do they always sell out within a second?
They used to. I think it's slowing down a bit. I think there's so many people teaching classes now, and a lot of them at a lower price point that, it's just the market's getting a little saturated. So I still have my diehards that come to class and new people that really want to learn techniques or they've been doing cookies for a while and they want to ask questions of someone that has a lot of experience. Those are the people that come to my classes.
Yeah. Every time I go to a family event, I have this one cousin who does cookies on the side for fun in like a Racine. And she's like, we need to go to Vicki's class. Like, we need to go. I'm like, well, you tell me if we can find one that's not sold out.
Next Wednesday at Mickey's Bakes.
I was just going to say, come to Mickey's.
Oh, are you guys doing like dog themed or like what's the theme?
Hocus
Hocus
Pocus.
Ooh,
Pocus.
spooky.
Spooky.
I have to ride my witch broom over and
It'll actually be really fun.
Yeah,
that could
I think
be-
so.
that would be
I'm trying to
really
get
cool.
my mom to do it too.
Yes,
I
I
think
love
my
that.
mom will do it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe Ben.
That would be a sight to see.
No.
I haven't gotten my husband to decorate a cookie yet.
I don't
Really?
think Ben would
Yeah.
do
But
it.
what about
10
like
years.
helping with the dough? He makes the dough maybe?
He will not touch a cookie, but
Is he nervous?
But he'll like fold all my boxes. He'll help me pack up orders if I get super busy. He'll do all that. And then he's like my unsung hero because he cooks all of our meals. So, during this season where I'm working from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, he takes care of everything so I can just focus. So.
What's his name?
Matt?
Shout out Matt.
Praise God. Praise God.
I don't know why I blew him a kiss.
I don't know.
Sorry, that was weird.
Shelby's here to make it weird.
I just
We
love
love you,
that he
Matt.
cooks your meals.
He does.
That's so nice.
No, that
Does
is
he rub
very
your
nice.
hands?
No, she has
but
one
he
you
got
have
me
a
a hand
massager.
massager.
I will say, because I'll go home, it's not so much my hands, but my feet and my legs, which
Yes.
I know you know, and I know you know
Well,
too.
I have my compression socks.
Okay, Grandma.
Wait, I literally wore them
Okay,
out on
Gammy
Saturday.
T.
I wore
Gammy
wore
over
them out on
here.
Saturday. They're cute. They're nice and black and slender.
I'll see them before I say they're cute.
Yeah. I like,
But I don't have a hand massager. My hands don't hurt like that
Yeah.
normally, but it's my legs. And about once a week, once every 2 weeks, I can get him to do it. But I'll walk in the door and go, you are rubbing my feet today. And you're not getting out of it. Like, there's not even a discussion. It's like, I physically need it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
so I
it's
know
a
what I'm getting
problem.
you for Christmas.
a foot massager.
No, compression socks. What? Do you wear compression socks?
I'm 26
No.
years old.
Yeah.
I'm not 27 like
Oh
you.
my God. I literally got them for my birthday. But anyways, we'll talk. We'll get some with custom cookies. Anyways, no, I don't have any ailments except for sometimes I do wear compression socks with long
And your
distance
finger.
Mhm.
And the eczema finger reigns forever. But I sleep with a guard like a wrist thing because I have what is this called?
Tennis elbow.
No, what it's I can feel it when I go like this. Well, carpal tunnel.
Okay.
You really are like,
Yeah, these are my PT stretches. So I'm just saying it's interesting when you like do something over and over again.
Yes.
For me, it's on my phone. It's this
Mhm.
motion. For those watching at the video, it's the scrolling motion. And I don't know if you guys have that problem, but with the cookies.
Really? So mine
Got
is
limber.
one of the reasons I have some of the commercial equipment I do is to help my body, like rolling dough.
You have
If
a
you're
sheeter,
doing that
right?
for hours and hours, I have a
Oh.
dough sheeter.
Oh.
Come play with it.
oh,
I
I would love to.
I got it because my shoulder just really started hurting and there was nothing I could do to get it to stop. So
It's like a professional sport. You
Yeah.
need all the,
yeah.
you need everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, a sheeter, what I would do for that.
It's a dream.
Actually, I don't roll stuff anymore. What Trina would do for that.
Yeah, that's really wild.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to you. I met you in 2020. You picked up a Halloween board from my house and we got chatting. And this was like at the beginning of time when everyone was, really connecting, like hyper connecting in Madison. That's obviously when I met, like we all met each other too. But I remember asking if you'd ever want employees. And I'm wondering, like, we've asked another cake artist this question. Do you think you'd actually want one?
It would
Or
it would be hard to give up control. I think I would bring someone in to bake, make dough, roll out, cut out cookies, clean, do the dishes. I think that's where I would start. It would be really hard for me to start giving up some of the decorating. I'd have to really trust that person in order to do that. But I'm thinking about even a virtual assistant. I spend so much time like getting everything organized, getting all my orders ready. I feel like that might be a small step. Have either of you done that?
I did have a virtual assistant, but that was like I had gone through a lot of other people that I worked with me before I wanted to give them emails. Like to me, like if someone reaches out and they're 1 foot in with another vendor, like I really needed to make a splash. So I didn't want to give up that control until, and this is from like email perspective, until I got a CRM. And then I use HoneyBook, which is great for this type of thing. And then I had templates so that they could follow the templates. But it was, after a couple emails, a lot of times they do end up back in my corp. But just the fact that we could respond within like 24, 48 hours instead of like 2 weeks was really nice. And this person is someone that I know that is from here but lives in a different state. And she has been incredible. But I do like having someone in-house that like, when someone calls, they can actually call this person or they can meet the person face to face for the stuff I do. But like from my first employee, I think like, making the dough, sheeting, even flooding. Do you call it flooding?
Yep, flooding.
I'm in it.
Look at you. You got the lingo.
I love watching those videos. And flooding in dishes. I mean, I feel like that takes up
It
like
does.
80, 70% of your time?
70% easy.
As someone who was the same as you, who was like, nope, I can't remember how you were like, you need an employee. I really struggled. I was like, no one can do what I do.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds annoying. But
No,
like,
I know.
I was like, no one can do this. Like, how I do it is like how it needs to be done. But like, oh man, I tell you, and I had a very good first employee. Like, you probably would too, because you're only looking for one.
Right.
Yeah. So like, and you know exactly what
You would have
want.
100 applicants.
Vicki, I swear it will change your life. Like, even if you say, let's just do like a test through the holidays for like 2 weeks. And
that would be amazing.
I could just use 2 weeks of help.
Gosh.
And if things are good, like I'll keep you on just a test run. And then if you like them, be like, hey, maybe you could help me once every 2 weeks. And then, oh my gosh, Vicki, your life will change.
I do think that would be amazing. Yes.
I'll do it.
I also agree. I think so. I didn't go looking for my first person. It was actually my old roommate's cousin who ended up working for me for 2.5 years. Jack. He was always on my story. He reached out and I just had him doing like things that were silly, like hole punching cards, cutting string. Cause I'm like, that's all I'm willing to give up.
Yes.
Then he came to the kitchen one day and I remember this was like New Year's. I was doing my New Year's special and we were both sprinting in the kitchen. And I was like, let me do a flash sale. And we ended up selling like another 6 or 7 boards and we didn't have them made. I had like 2 made. So I was like, we need to make more. We need to make more, type of thing. And then I calculated like him just helping me be able to make those 4 boards, like paid for his time here. So like, even if you bump up capacity a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh my gosh, now I have 2 people. Well, me and him. Now knowing that he's helpful, I can double capacity. And then, I think like the return on investment with one person is huge. And then I think I don't know if the return, doubles with every new person, but like that first person.
Yeah. I would need to find the right person because it's my home too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like, yeah.
I notice you and all the cookiers that I feel like are really blown up on Instagram. You guys are booked out through EOY end of year.
Because
That's even
it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
It really is. And I don't know if I want to grow, right? Like there's no one definition of success. Not everybody needs to grow in a certain way. And I'm like, for a long time, I was happy where I was at, right? Like I like being at my house because I do work until 11, 12 o'clock and we have the open floor plan. So I'm there with my husband and I'm like, okay, it doesn't feel like I'm away working. But I've been thinking more lately about growing and getting help because it's a very physical job too. We were talking about that. I never dreamed I'd be lugging 50-pound bags of flour and sugar as much as I am all the time. So yeah, I'm considering it. We'll see.
submit your application.
I was going to say email or DM.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Custom cookies, I kind of got away from doing that. Like that's the last thing that I'll do and fill in with because I don't make minimum wage, honestly, when I make custom cookies. I love it. Like I am driven by my heart and I love making cookies for kids' birthdays and weddings and showers and all that. It makes me feel so good. I love to do it, but I spend so much time and energy designing it, planning it out, and it's expensive for the customer. My custom prices are not cheap, but it's because I'll spend 20 hours on that order for 2 dozen cookies easily, and I'm not making minimum wage. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I prioritize my work is classes and holiday sales because I'm making a lot of the same designs, so I can do it a lot faster than doing custom orders.
Does that still bring you joy when you're doing like the same cookie design over and over?
It does sometimes.
Yeah.
Not compared to like a custom order that I get that I'm just psyched about the theme. That's my favorite. But then there's custom orders where I'm like, I don't want to make a tractor themed birthday set. You know, this isn't fun for me. It doesn't spark my creativity.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to hear more about the cookie gang. I don't know.
Oh, the
Cookie
gang.
gang.
Cookie
Okay.
community.
Yeah,
So-
cookie con.
Yeah, I should say community, not gang.
Yeah. Oh my.
So tell me a little bit about that, because as a baker, I know that bakers are very like kumbaya. Like, I just keep hitting you. Bakers are very like a big community, right? So like, I feel that. However, people that make royal icing, specifically sugar cookies, are like another breed.
Yes.
And I want to just come in, but they shut the door.
They're like, no, you don't
'Cause I don't
understand.
do
This is
royal
our
icing.
space.
So tell me, why do you think that is?
I think we're all crazy in the same way. And I think it goes back to sugar cookies being so time consuming and so intense. And like we work all the time. And you just kind of nerd out with people that are into the same things that you're into. I went to my first cookie con in, I think it was 2018, maybe 2017. But I didn't know it was a thing until then. So it was in Indianapolis. So I drove to Indianapolis and I'm like, wow, all these people like, we can talk about meringue powder for 20 minutes and nerd out about meringue powder. And I think also cookie art is very personal. You know, I said I kind of do everything with my heart. And I think that's part of what goes into sugar cookies is you're pouring your whole heart and soul into these 24 little cookies. So I think that attracts a certain type of personality. So a lot of cookiers share similar traits. We're people pleasers, we're caring, we want to make everybody happy. And you get a group of 850 people like that together and it's crazy.
It's chaos.
It's chaos.
Seriously,
It is.
like when I get your cookies, especially like in 2020 when I had first seen them, I would get a shiver through my whole body and be like, oh my gosh, I can literally feel the love. Like you gave me a baby Yoda with like, it was like it's Christmas theme.
Yeah.
After I had had like the longest day in the kitchen. And I remember I just started crying. I was like, this is perfect. I just felt like calm.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys are all very like kind, caring, it seems like.
Yeah. And I think it's because it becomes such a personal thing with your customer. I think that's why it attracts a group of like-minded people.
Mm-hmm. Kind of want to talk about more CookieCon. Like you took some crazy classes and I'm sure they just keep getting crazier, but like there was one, it was lifelike.
The sea turtle?
It was like, I don't know if it was the sea turtle that I remember, but it was like multidimensional.
Okay.
What was that one? That was nuts.
If it was this year, it was probably the sea turtle. It had like, it looked like a sea in the background and the turtle was like 3D hanging out on the beach. We used isomalt for it. So CookieCon is crazy because you can go and learn all these amazing things, but am I ever going to make a customer a cookie that has a big piece of isomalt, like sugar in back of it?
I was actually going to ask you for that.
I guess
week.
once I'll make. But so it's fun to learn the techniques, and I try to do some that are just for fun like that, and then some where the skills are transferable. Like I took a class on how to use the edible printer that I had just bought. So that was actually really helpful. So it's a combination of just playing, I guess, and then finding things that are really helpful. But yeah, it's like 850, 900 people for 3 or 4 days, and you take classes and you just kind of hang out and bond.
Is it classes
with people
all day long?
All day. Like there's no free time in the schedule at all.
But you all decide what classes you're going to take.
Okay, I'm really curious, and I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing this. What does it cost to go to CookieCon? Like, what's the ticket
I think
for like the
the
classes?
ticket cost was $800.
Okay.
I don't really remember. But then, of course, it's travel and it's hotel and meals. And there's a vendor hall, so you buy way too much stuff that you don't need. So, I mean, I come home and I've spent several $1,000s going to CookieCon.
Yeah, but that's right off.
That's an investment.
It's right off, and you get to hang out with your friends for a few days. So,
yeah. Man, I'm waiting for someone in the charcuterie community to do something.
Don't wait for someone to do it. Do it yourself.
I know. Well, I thought about it a couple years.
TrickyCon.
Oh, TrickyCon.
No.
At the Alliant Energy Center.
Absolutely not. I did think it would be cool in like Wisconsin, someone to do it because there's so many cheese places. I feel like I was really heavily involved in the charcuterie community in 2020 and 2021. And then it shifted to like the Madison community. And a lot of those those charcuterie businesses, yeah, they're kind of all we're all doing different things a little bit. Like we kind of have niches a little bit more. Like some have storefronts, some do courses. But I don't know, it would be cool. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
When I can breathe a little bit better.
Okay, fair.
But I think it'd be amazing. You should do baked cookies that aren't royal
There's
icing.
stuff like that already.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's tons of those.
Yeah.
Aw.
Like I've been thinking about doing not a cookie con, but like a Madison area cookiers meetup. Because I know a handful of people and I have a couple of very sweet people who have come to my classes and gone on to open their own businesses, which is amazing. And I love having those connections with people because I don't do a lot of custom orders and I love having people that I can refer to. So I like building that community too.
Well, now that brings me to a question. Like, can you tell me how you view other competitors, other cookiers that have popped up in the area? How do you feel about them? Is that a question?
That was a spicy question.
It is a spicy
spicy-
question.
Well,
Do you want me to get? I like this person. I don't like that person. Here's the reason why.
Some people are like, community or competition. Like,
Yeah.
is that how you feel? And if you don't feel comfortable with this question, we don't have to.
No, I'm totally comfortable with that. I would say I feel that way to a certain extent because my business had grown so much. There was one Valentine's Day where in 15 minutes, I got over 200 orders. And it was
Valentine's
panicked.
Day
I was like,
is
shut it
just
down,
like
shut it down.
For
I
the
can't
cookie
do
people,
it.
yeah, you guys
it's crazy.
So in a way, it's good that the community has grown so much because it's spread that out. Like now when I do a holiday pre-sale, it lasts for days before I reach capacity. So it's good that there's a lot of people out there doing it. But then I'm also like, but if I do want to grow and get bigger, is there still enough of a market for me to be able to do that?
I do.
There is for
I
you.
feel
I
like
think so.
Yeah. And I think like the way I see it, you were the first cookier I found here. I remember I used to follow them like in different states and I'd be like, this is crazy. And then I found you here.
There's someone right here.
Yeah. One thing that I really feel like makes you stick out in the community is like, one, you tell your story, you show your face, people know you, but like, and I want to know how you do this because I don't even know how to do this, is like you show up and you're like actually in a good mood all the time. It seems like, or you're like, oh, I've got my massage thing on my arms and I've pulled a 20. I remember there was one time you pulled like an all-nighter 24-hour thing to do stuff and the whole thing, but you still were like fine and happy. I'm like, for me, once January hits, it's like a wave and I am so exhausted and like need to go to Florida instantly to get sun because I'm not well.
Yeah.
How do you ever reach that point? Are you just like,
I crash in January. So I am naturally just an enthusiastic, positive person. Like with Strengths Quest, my number one strength was positivity.
rub that off on me
because
too.
I am just, that's my nature. Everything in my life is great. I'm having a great time. And
it's a cookier attitude.
Even when I'm working 24 hours, it's like the next day my customers send me videos. One of my customers sent me a video this Easter of her son pulling a cookie out of his basket. And she's like, what is that? He's like, it's a cookie. And she's like, where is it from? He's like, Vicki cookies, put it in my basket. And I died. Like, so I get tired, but then people send me things like that. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason that I do what I do. And I love it so much. So, but I crash in January. The first 2 weeks in January, I'm like, just let me be in a dark room by
I'm
myself.
closing for
And
2
then,
weeks.
yeah, good for you. And then summer, I take very few orders in summer because we do have a pool, which is really nice. So I really just ramp down in the summer and rest in anticipation for what's coming.
wow.
Yeah.
And you have customers that like take care of you.
I
They
do.
bring coffees,
I have
they
the
bring
best
notes.
customers.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm so lucky.
I should be like, hey, sometime you could go to Miggy's Bakes. She does love. I'm kidding.
With the Starbucks gift card. Oh my
Shelby
gosh.
loves coffee too, guys.
She does love XYZ.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I feel like you are kind of like, in a way, like how people have hairstylists. Like you're the cookie person.
Yeah.
But you're also the cake person for a lot of people, like they're doing your wedding, you're doing their wedding, their baby, like all that stuff. So it's like when people find something that they like, they just keep going back.
I just did one kid's 3rd birthday. I did his baby shower, his first,
I
his
love
second,
that.
and his 3rd now. And the mom was like, can't wait for next year.
Oh my gosh.
And his birthday's on the 4th of July. So like every year it's like red, white, and blue. This year though, he's like, I want black and blue. Like, so
Ooh.
Oh,
I'm like,
all right.
Sass.
Yeah.
So every year, like, it's
I
kind
love
of funny.
that though. You
Yeah.
almost become part of people's families.
Yeah.
You know, because you're included in all of their little special celebrations.
Yeah, Vicki Cookie is a household name in the
Aw.
Madison area
I
and
love
beyond. Though my family's always like Vicki Cookie, Vicki Cookie, not Vicky's Cookies.
Yeah, so
right?
I'll tell you how this happened. It's not my fault. I know it's weird. But when I was in New York and I was starting like a little business trying to figure it out, I was trying to figure out what to name it. And I named it Center Stage Sweets because I was like, my sweets are center stage at your event. They're the star. But then I had friends that just like would not accept it. And they would just be like, I just want a Vicki cookie. Just give me those Vicki cookies. And that's what they called it. So it just stuck. I tried to come up with a different name and they were like, no, it's Vicki cookies. So everyone always says Vicki's cookies because that's how it should be. But my cookie is called a Vicki cookie to them. So
It's kind of funny. All of our names are so similar. Vicki, Cookie, Miggy, Bakes, Tricky. It's so like our name or like a nickname close to us. We're so original.
yeah.
We all started around the same time.
Yeah.
It's the time frame.
Yeah,
it's
it
that
is.
time
It is.
frame.
It was
Yeah.
that panini air. Like it just made us all think the same.
Yeah.
So we all do. We all look at you as like a successful cookier. What do you feel like were some successful strategies to get you there or advice for people that are cookiers trying to get there?
So I think number one, a quality product. That seems pretty basic. And then consistency. Like when you say you're going to do something, you do it. When I say my Halloween presale is Thursday, my Halloween presale is Thursday. Always letting people know what to expect. Sharing the process. People love when you do little decorating videos. That helps growth. And just getting word of mouth out there. When you have a quality product and people know you're putting your heart into it, they tell everybody about it. So I think that's where my big growth really came from, was people trying it, liking it, telling their friends about it.
And kind of like spinning off that, you said that you put your heart into like all your products. Do you ever feel like that's burned you?
I don't think so, although I take things very personally. Like most customers will send me an email or a message saying, I just got my cookies. They're so great. I love it so much. But then if I don't get that, I'm like, did they hate them? Did they think their cookies were ugly?
I'm actually curious just for me because I get people that like are like, the cake is ugly. Blah, blah, blah. But your stuff is like always so like, I don't even know how you could say something bad. Have you had people be like, I don't like them?
I've never had anybody do that. No.
Oh. Let's switch.
I've had people be mean to me because I didn't have the capacity to take their order. But
send them to me.
If they hate them, they've been nice enough not to tell me they hate them.
Oh, gosh.
Well, your cookies actually taste good every time people eat them.
Anyways, so yeah, I also want to know, have you had any dreams of being on Food Network?
Funny story. I don't. Like, I've always said, everyone's like, oh, you're so good at this. You should be on one of those competition shows. You should go do this. And I'm like, it's too stressful, right? Like, my creativity can't happen under stress. I'm not interested. And then this March, I got a notification on Instagram, and it was a comment on one of my posts saying, hi, my name is, I think it was Kayla. I do casting for Food Network Halloween Cookie Challenge. Your cookies fit the kind of aesthetic we're looking for. Would you be interested in chatting? And I'm like, this is spam. Like, it was on a Guy Fieri set that I did for my husband's birthday. So I was like, this person's trying to scam me somehow. But she also sent me a DM. And I was like, this is not something I've ever wanted to do, but you know, let's see what happens. So I chatted with her. She called me and she was casting for the Halloween challenge. And she was asking me, what do you like about Halloween? You know, what kind of cookies do you make? And so we had a phone conversation. And then like 10 minutes later, she called back and she was like, hey, I was talking to my producer and do you like Christmas more than Halloween? And I was like, I love Christmas. And she's like, we want to talk to you for the Christmas cookie challenge. And I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So
it's one of the best shows ever made.
I know. So she gave me like a challenge that I had to do. She was asking me, you know, to send pictures of my past work. And then on that show, they always do a structure, like a 3D. It has to be at least 6 inches high. And she was like, do you have any pictures of like a structure you've built that you can send me? And I'm like, I have never made a structure. And she's like, want to do it this weekend? And if you can get it to me by Monday, you know, I'll pass it along. And
oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
Okay. It was March. It was kind of a quiet time. So I was like, okay. Let's do it. So I made this like Buddy the Elf 3D diorama of the narwhal coming out of the water. Like, bye, Buddy. Hope you find your dad. So I took pictures. I sent it over to her and they decided they wanted to talk to me. So then I had a follow-up call with a casting producer, I think it was, and it was on Zoom, and it was kind of wild. Like, now I watch reality shows differently after that, because we'd just be chatting and he'd be like, do you think Santa Claus would be a Packers fan? And I'd laugh and I'd answer, and then he's like, okay, now I want you to look into the camera and say, I think Santa would be a Packers fan because wanted me to like, and it felt so awkward to me because I feel like I have a pretty good energy, but he was like, more.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, it was actually really fun though, because he was just really good at his job and getting you to say those things. And so it was basically like they were creating a highlight reel that they would then take on to the casting team. And at this point, I'm like, I've never wanted to do this. Competing under a clock just makes me uncomfortable. I don't.
But getting to meet Ree Drummond,
yeah, and when
she's a host,
and Eddie Jackson,
not a host, judge.
Yeah, and I'm like, but also when the Food Network comes knocking on your door, you can't say no, right? Like, okay.
Yeah.
So then that was March, and they were filming in June. Was when they were going to film a Christmas cookie challenge.
Wow.
Yeah, this is behind the scenes stuff. So then I didn't hear from them for a long time. And I'm like, oh, they must have decided, they didn't want me on their show. But then in May, the first week of May, I get a call that they've selected me for a callback, that they want to talk to me again to be cast on the show. And they were like, but we need you to do this challenge and you have 3 days to do it. And basically it's like recreating what you would do on the actual show. Like,
oh, you do it beforehand.
Yeah. So they gave me specific challenges. Like, we need you to make these 2 cookies, 2 of each cookies. And it has to be the worst stocking stuffer you've ever heard. Like, that was the theme. And then I had to do a 3D structure, like a Christmas diorama. And they gave me 3 days to do it. And you guys know what early May is like, right?
Tough.
So this fell during teacher appreciation, nurse appreciation, Mother's Day, UW graduation. It was all during that time period where I'm working from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed anyway. So I was trying to like plan it out and figure out how I was going to get it done, because that's like 30 hours of work. And I couldn't do it. Like, I was going to bed like with heart palpitations. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get this done. Plus, I have all these orders that I have to fill for my customers. So I actually had to call the Food Network and say, I'm sorry, I'm too busy to be on Christmas Cookie Challenge, which was hard. But when I really thought about it, I just wanted a party. Like, I didn't actually want to go and compete because I'm not a competitive person really. And those shows stress me out.
Yeah, me too.
They're so mean to the contestants.
Would you do it again though if they came back and said, hey, we want to try you again?
I would, because again, I feel like if you're given that opportunity, you just have to do it. And I felt like
Vicki Cookies, not during May.
Yeah, please call Vicki Cookies in January or, summer. So yeah, I didn't end up doing it, but I'm really interested now to see if the challenges they were going to have me do actually appear on the show in December. So
I'll be watching and I'll be messaging you, asking was this
the
one?
Man,
Yeah.
that'd be wild. Do they have cash prizes for that show?
They do. I think it's like $10,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But really, I just wanted to have a viewing party. Like, I wanted to get all my family and
my
friends
gosh.
together and be like, let's watch this episode.
That would
I
be
didn't
so
actually
fun.
have a desire to be a part of the competition. I just wanted the fun stuff that goes around.
Someday. You guys could
We'll
do it together, do a collab. You'd be like the assist.
My dream job is to be a judge on one of those shows,
wow.
not to be a contestant.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard you can sign stuff and they like tell you like when you're going to mess up. Like,
Really?
they'll tell you, nope, now's your time to mess up. And like, I don't ever want that to happen. That's what MK had mentioned.
Yeah.
They're
So,
intense. Like,
yeah.
even the fact that they wanted me to turn around all this work in 3 days, I don't know how people who have a successful business can do it.
Mm-hmm.
How they can just put everything on hold to get it all done. But yeah, they're intense, and I don't really have an interest in it still. But
If it
But I
happens.
wanna
if
see
it
it,
happens,
so-
I'd have to do it.
So, Vicki, if you could go back to the very beginning of starting your business and the whole entrepreneurial journey, is there advice that you would give yourself then, knowing what you know now?
I think it would be, don't be so afraid. I mentioned earlier I was very cautious about it and wanted everything to be just right before I did it. And I would say, screw it, let's do this. Earlier. I admire both of you so much. And I said I feel like a weird grandma. I think it was Shelby when you did your first event. I was like, I'm so proud of you. And I don't know you that much, but I look at you in your mid-20s and I'm like, man, I wish I would have done something sooner rather than waiting for so long. So I would tell myself to just do it.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I really need to say something really quick because you brought up Shelby's event.
Mm-hmm.
You brought like 100 cookies
as your business card.
Like, I could not believe it. I was like, shit, I brought cheese cubes, so stamped with my name. I mean, I'm like, you're so creative. You bring cookies everywhere.
Yeah.
And for those who are watching the video,
smart.
Look at these screw it, let's do this cookies. We'll start selling these on our website someday when we have a website for our merch. Yeah, that will be in the future.
Yeah,
for sure.
So Vicki, where can people find you?
So they can find me on Instagram at Vicki Cookies Bakery. Vicki Cookies was taken by someone who's never posted. You can find me on Facebook as Vicki Cookies, and my website is VickiCookies.com.
That's Vicki, not Vicky's.
That's
everyone.
Vicki, no S.
Yes,
Vicki.
just Vicki.
V-I-C.
You can find me at Mickey's Bakes.
And you can find me at Tricky Foods.
And you can find us
At Screw It, Let's Do This.
That's it.
That's it.
You can find us on YouTube, on anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Subscribe.
And leave us a review.
But leave us a review. Tell your friends. Tell your mother. Tell the fellow cookiers that Vicki Cookies is unleashed.
It's unleashed.
It's unleashed in this episode. Her story has been unleashed in this episode. And we'll see you guys next episode.
Bye.
Bye.